Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at our second most viewed video on our channel, which is a short film called Scene of the Crime, which is a kind of crime comedy film. It's got about 30,000 views, so thank you very much for that. The reception for it has been really good so far. It got into a festival way back when and did all right. I didn't think it was a runner-up, which was really nice. So I thought I'd take a look at it today and try and break it down for you guys and show you guys how we kind of put it together, what our thought processes were, and just give you some sort of behind-the-scenes insights, as per usual with these film breakdowns. Bit of context for the film. We shot it in our third year of university, as with many of the things on this channel, and it was shot on a Blackmagic cinema camera. It was edited on Adobe Premiere Pro. I think After Effects was used for some of the effects, and it was graded using DaVinci Resolve. So the film itself was for university, but we wanted to create something. I was a co-director, co-producer, co-editor, and a writer on it. So I just wanted to produce something that was quite fun. The way that we came up with the film sort of premise was basically just coming up with a gimmick, which you can see very clearly in the film what that gimmick is. There's a teleportation device that this character, this kind of average Joe, stumbles across, and it transports him around different locations, which just so happen to be crime scenes, basically imminent crimes that are happening. It's kind of like, this wasn't an inspiration, but I guess you could compare it to Minority Report in some ways, if anyone's seen that, in the sense that the device would allow you to go and stop a crime before it happens because it will take you to a crime scene. But this average guy just stumbles across it and goes on kind of this hero's arc. Has this kind of hubris. So let's dive into it. Let's see how it all was put together, and hopefully we can learn a few things on the way. So here's our main character. He doesn't have a name. We kind of just wanted him to be a bit of a vessel for the audience. I think he only says 2 lines in this, and those 2 lines are very deliberate. They're there for a specific purpose. We didn't want him to really say anything unless he needed to, and there's never really any call for him to say anything apart from in those 2 instances. We actually, after shooting the film, we were considering shooting another scene to give some context to this moment. The idea being that he's kind of a downtrodden, sort of very much average Joe office worker, 9 to 5, doesn't enjoy his job, is a bit, sort of depressed, isolated, which we try and show with this kind of shot here where he's on a bench in kind of office clothing all by himself, looking quite small. But yeah, we wanted to add a scene of him in that kind of oppressive environment, in the office environment, and then him sort of leaving for lunch to kind of get away and get a bit of a breather from his work. And the reason for that was because he does go on this kind of journey where he goes from being this very average guy to being a hero, to then sort of having his hubris, getting too confident, getting too arrogant, and then obviously meeting his downfall as a result. So we kind of thought about putting that in there, but then thought it kind of disrupted the flow of the film quite a bit. And also, I'm not sure we even had that much time to do it on our course at the time, so it never got done. But I don't think the film's hurt too much for not having done that. Wide shots like this as well, quite difficult to get the boom in close with the equipment that we had. So pretty much all of the audio in a lot of this scene it's all added in post. It's all the sound effects that we've added in the editing program after the fact, just because you can't get the mic close enough to get high quality sound, and we didn't have time to do sound takes on the day either. I seem to remember it's been quite delayed, which was pretty standard back then on shoots, that we were kind of rushed for time. So we added it all in post, so all the footsteps and all the clicking of the box and all that is all fake, basically. So he drops it there. It's supposed to be him dropping it. It kind of looks like he throws it. Some people might have thought he threw it at the guy, but he's supposed to just be running away from these 2 agents and dropping it. He's like the scientist, the creator of this device, and people are after him. It's never explained. Again, it's just kind of adding to that kind of farcical nature of it all. It's just for comedic purposes, basically. We wanted a lot of the comedy in the film to be told through action. Obviously, it's not an action film, but what I mean by that is sometimes you can have comedy through dialogue and what the characters are saying, and then there's the flip side of that where there's comedy through the action. You have things like slapstick comedy and all that kind of thing. And this, obviously, with it revolving around crime scenes, was basically just an attempt to make a kind of a black comedy through the use of action. So here he's obviously wants to figure out what the device is. Isn't sure if he should use it. Pretty sure it's just a random piece of circuitry from a computer shop. So that when he disappears there, we weren't sure how we were going to have the sort of teleportation effect look or sound. I think it was a combination of not having the skills all the time to put together a fancy effect, but also just thinking, you know what's kind of funny is if he just pops out of existence, which is actually kind of a difficult thing to do in some cases. Obviously, we took 2 different takes here. We had one with the actor in place, didn't move the camera, and then took another one, which is your plate, a clean plate without the actor in shot, so that we could have this here. But obviously you've got other things moving in the background as well. You've got like the grass blades and leaves are all rustling in the wind. So if it had just been a hard cut from him in shot to him not in shot, you would have seen all the background elements jump as well. So I think Mikey, our VFX guy who works on this, found a way to kind of blend the 2 takes together. I think he used masks kind of painted around the character just so you don't see the rest of the environment change around him when he's out of frame. Which is pretty clever how he put it together, but I think it's again adds to that kind of comedic charm. I think if we'd had some kind of CGI special effects going on, it wouldn't have been as funny. Basically, it's leaning more into sci-fi than it is into comedy, which is an important thing to think about when you're like looking at effects or action. Is like, is this action serving the comedy or is it serving something else? So he appears here. This is an alleyway behind our flat that we were living in at the time. Seems a little bit nonchalant for having just been teleported, but we wanted him to play it very dry and kind of just maybe play it in a way that most people wouldn't. We wanted him to be a little bit of an oddball, so he's kind of looking around trying to figure out what the situation is here. Again, he's not really saying anything. We kind of want him to be on the same journey as the audience at this point. The audience are confused as to why he's been brought to this random alleyway. We don't know. He doesn't know. So we wanted to kind of build this scene up slowly and reveal information to them. Looking around. This random guy's running. So again, sort of slowly building up the mystery here. What's going on? And then this car appears. This shot was achieved by just having the camera crew and the sound guy in the back of the boot of another car that was driving in front of the man running, and then obviously just shooting out the back whilst the car drives forwards. Bit of a pain to line up in terms of getting the composition right, getting the shot in focus, and then obviously timing the car's movements and the guy climbing out the window that you'll see in a second. Timing all that is actually surprisingly difficult, and every time you have to reset, they have to drive around the block to get the car back in position. So that was a challenge. That's something to consider if you're ever working with vehicles. Obviously the first crime is committed and he's freaking out. Does what most of us would do and tries to get out of that situation. Appears in another location, and this is where we hope to start trying to build the links between why he's been brought from this place to another, like what the significance of the device is.
I'm trying.
I think this was in a student shop.
Do you want to die?
So probably wouldn't have been much in a till for this guy to steal.
Come on, do you want to die? Come on, hurry up! I'm just trying.
Not sponsored by Pringles, by the way, or Lucozade.
Who are you?
So there, rather than it turning into kind of an action scene or him shouting at the guy or shooting, we just kind of wanted it to be like this funny kind of little... The Robert's just really just as confused as everyone else. He's like, who are you? What's going on? We thought that was funnier than having him kind of react aggressively in any way. Again, trying to subvert expectations for comedic purposes. This, I imagine, was a difficult one for Mikey to figure out. I'm not sure how he did it to this day. Obviously, we've got the ocean in the background. Again, this was all nearby. We had to use a lot of locations for this film, even though it's only a 4-minute film. There's so many sort of miniature scenes at little locations that we had over a dozen, I think, by the end of it that we shot at, which is, again, something to bear in mind if you're doing a film with lots of different locations in your script. You've got to drive and move all your kit and your crew and your actors to those locations. Often you won't have time to do like one location a day. Obviously these scenes are very short, so we could usually do them in a couple of hours. So we then had to, as producers, figure out the schedule and logistics behind moving from one place to another and making the most of the days that we had available, despite having to jump between so many different locations, which was a bit of a juggling act and quite difficult in some places. So yeah, if you want to make your life easier as a producer, try and put it all in one place to begin with. That'll help. But yeah, having the sea in the background here, I think really helps sell the effect of him teleporting rather than it just looking like cutting from one empty shot to one shot with him in frame. Having the kind of sea moving and all that really helps sell the effect of him appearing in an actual living space. We do a little comedic reveal. That's actually me being drowned in the water there. One of the coldest moments of my life, easily. I don't know if anyone knows much about the northeast of England, but it's a very cold place, even in summer, at the best of times. And this was October, I think. And yeah, I just had to sort of submerge myself in the water quickly for this shot. And I remember the breath being just knocked out of me. I remember barely being able to breathe for a few seconds. And as soon as the shot was done, even though I was supposed to be helping direct, I was like, you guys carry on. I think my flat wasn't far up the road. I think I ended up running. It was like a 5-minute run away. So I just sprinted, soaking wet, straight back to my flat and went straight upstairs, straight in the shower to warm up, and then got back on set. Because, yeah, it was cold. Again, a difficult shot to kind of achieve there because the camera moves and then he disappears, so that it's not like we're on a static shot. The camera is being operated, it is moving around on the tripod. So to kind of keep it in place as he ducks out of frame, I think literally as soon as he did that, he ducked. And then I think we just had to stabilize the shot slightly in post to kind of match up the bit where he's ducked out of it and the bit where he was just using the device to disappear. But again, I think it sells it quite well having the ocean in the background. This was mine and my flatmate's flat. Again, using whatever locations we can. So by this point, we're hoping the audience has kind of figured out what this device is doing. Every time he teleports, he comes to a new crime scene. We've had 3. We kind of used the rule of threes. We've had 3 before this, where we've had the alleyway, the shop, and the ocean. We're trying to vary the locations as much as we can, even though they were all kind of in a close radius of one another geographically, like in real life, because we just needed it to be easy to move between logistically whilst we were filming. But we wanted them to seem quite varied, so it didn't just look like random different areas of the same town, which is why we have the beach, we have interior locations, exterior locations, the park, trying to make it as varied as we can. But yeah, we're hoping by this point, having had 3 scenes before here, that people have realised every place he arrives at is a crime scene, and he's starting to realise the same thing. So this is kind of a key moment of character growth, if you like. This is as his kind of arc starts to begin to shift. He's thinking of leaving, but he's looking back. He's feeling sorry for this person, thinking, maybe I should actually help someone. I've seen all these people get hurt and attacked. Maybe I should do something. And this is where his kind of hero's journey begins.
Oh my God, you saved my life.
Yeah. I did, didn't I?
And that part there, all very deliberate. Again, it's one of 2 lines that the character has, and the reason we had this line here is because it's kind of this pivotal moment in his character's arc. This is when he kind of decides, you know what, I'm going to use this for good. I'm going to be a hero. And we've got that kind of cheesy shot, the jolly shot looking up towards him. We've got the music building in the background. It's all done to kind of add to the comedic feel of it. We're trying to go for a very fun, light-hearted hero's journey with a bit of a black comedy twist on it at the end, as you'll see. So yeah, all this is very deliberate. The camera movement, the music, having just this one line here is all for that purpose of selling this moment of his kind of a light bulb moment for him, where he's like, you know what, I am a hero.
Thank you.
So yeah, the montage begins with all the music in the background. This was filmed in obviously a tunnel that goes under the road. We had to get permission off the council and I think the police to do this because obviously there's someone with a mask and a knife and we're kind of disrupting a public walkway. So just remember, if you're filming in public places, that's something you need to consider, especially for doing something that involves something that might look a bit sketchy. So we had to have people stood on different sides of the tunnel, just warning people. We couldn't stop people from coming inside, but we just sort of warned them what was going on. So we had to obviously work around the public in this situation and to try and make it go as quickly as possible so that we weren't disrupting the walkway for too long. We just went with sort of practical lights. So all the lighting in the tunnel obviously was there on day, and obviously the light from outside of the tunnel, that's all that we used to light this scene. It was literally just point the camera and go, because we didn't even need sound for this with it being a montage. We've got the music going to add to that kind of comedic effect. You can see here he's getting a bit cocky already. We're kind of trying to plant this seed of him being a little bit arrogant, like maybe he's getting a bit too overconfident with his sort of newfound powers. And I think the jump cuts initially, I think that was something that we found in the edit. We weren't sure if we were going to jump cut through this montage or not. There's quite a few different scenes that you'll see in this montage. We were going to just let them all sort of run out naturally, but we found that it actually dragged out the film quite a lot more than was necessary in the edit. The scenes, although quite short, felt a lot longer than they needed to be. Obviously, the purpose of the scenes is literally just to kind of show his arrogance building as he sort of goes around trying to be a hero. So there's no need really for the scenes to overstay their welcome. So that's why we ended up sort of jump cutting through them to kind of keep the pacing nice and quick. You'll see jump cuts occurring here too for the same reason. This was just in another student house. We had two, I think it was two 1K, maybe 2K ARRI lights just pointing at the house, and then we were using the dimmers to turn them on and off, had the red and blue gel in front to make it look like there was some kind of police force outside, like a hostage kind of situation. It's quite dark though, it's not particularly well lit in this particular instance, so it's kind of difficult to see what's going on, which is why we couldn't grade it too heavily. That's why the shot looks a little bit flat. And you can also see on the left there in the blue light the wire going up to the light. You can kind of see where we were powering it from, gathering the wire up the wall, which we probably could have masked out if we'd seen it, but I guess we didn't. This is students' wear. Again, just more arrogance, being a bit cheesy. And then in this scene here, this was in the back of a leisure centre. Again, such a short scene, but we were actually on a dolly here, sort of dollying forwards and moving around. It's kind of Scorsese-esque, I think, was the idea behind the camera work there. And obviously you've got all these extras here as well. We've got all the kit, the crew. It's a lot for just one small scene. So it is something to bear in mind if you ever have any montages. Like, there's a lot of setups involved. But this is, again, a very necessary scene because we see him here steal money and the drugs, which is basically what this little sort of cardboard box is. It's supposed to be like a drug deal going down. So he takes it all along with this gun that he's stolen from the previous scene, which again you can't really see very clearly because of how it's lit, but we kind of want to show that he's becoming a bit of a criminal himself, getting a bit too confident about his abilities and thinking that he can take advantage of this situation that he's found himself in and steal from each location. And the comedy here is him kind of telling off these hardened thugs, who are all lovely guys, by the way. And then we have this final scene here. So the point here is we're supposed to have a little bit of a twist now, where the situation that he's found himself in is he thinks this person here is the victim, but she's actually the one that's in trouble. She is the criminal in this situation, which he finds out very quickly in a moment. But then we have another line that's just coming up where he says he's going to save her. Again, the only other line that he says in the film, just to highlight the fact that he's kind of reached peak arrogance, and this decision that he makes here to save her is actually his downfall in the end.
Don't worry, I'll save you.
And he turns the corner, and there's a bunch of police. Just God knows what this person must have done to get all these police after her with such like an armed unit response. But we thought it wouldn't be as funny if we just had one or two police there. We thought we needed it to go overboard. Sometimes it pays to go over the top with comedy and just lean into the ridiculousness of the situation. So obviously now they think he's the criminal. He's holding drugs. He's holding this gun. I think that's me there on the right armed guard. That's my friend Will there, my flatmate and co-director on this, in the middle with the radio that he's talking into. Again, a lot of stuff to set up, a lot of costumes to sort out. It was raining at the time. A lot of time has to go into even these short scenes just to get them done. This was all on private land, obviously. I think there was a climbing wall place nearby that allowed us to do this. Obviously, shouting on police and having police officers in the street, you can't just you have to inform the police that that's happening. So remember to do that if you have anything involving police officers in your film. Make sure you let the police know what's going on, otherwise you could get in trouble. So yeah, he obviously goes to surrender there at the end, but he's raising the gun up at the same time, so they just they shoot him in the head, and that's how it ends. Just cut to black. We initially weren't going to do that. We had a little scene afterwards where the woman that he saves comes over to his body and takes the gun, takes the drugs, takes the device, to imply that it's going to carry on happening and someone else is going to go on this journey. But But we didn't think it was necessary. Like, the whole story is just about this one guy's arc, his kind of rise to power, and his very quick fall from grace. Obviously meets his hubris there at the end, and we didn't see the point in having anything afterwards. Just, I think it was far more funny to just end it where it was. This was the end of his journey. Obviously, he's dead. There was no need for the film to continue past that point. And it also adds to kind of the black comedy element where it's just like so abrupt and so unexpected that I think a lot of people in the comments of the video anyway commented on the ending. So I'm glad now that we stuck to it and went for this this kind of abrupt, brutal finish to the film. So I'll just let the credits play. All these wonderful people that helped out. We were using the guys that were working in the drama department at the university, as well as actors from outside of our university as well, who were kind enough to help us out. Lots of multi-rolling on the crew, as there often is with these small-scale things. There wasn't really a budget for this. A lot of it was favours that we pulled for the locations, or using locations that we already were in, obviously flats and outside of flats and that kind of stuff, public spaces. So yeah, that was Scene of the Crime. Really fun one to do. It's one of the few films I think that I made, certainly at university, that basically turned out the way I pictured it. There's a lot of films that I'm still obviously very happy with, very proud of, but you often find that you have to compromise a lot with your initial vision. Things don't go into plan, things don't go the way you want them to. That's just the way it is most of the time. So this one was one of those ones where I was expecting it to go very wrong because the amount of locations and extras that we had to use, and scheduling it all to work within the time frame that we have was tricky. But it actually all turned out kind of the way we planned it to, kind of the way that I'd envisioned it would be personally. It's not a perfect film by any means. There's definitely flaws, but that's more flaws that I wouldn't have recognised back then anyway necessarily. And at the time when this came out, I was just happy with the result. I thought we'd achieved what we'd set out to do basically, which was tell this comedic, dark story about this guy who finds this device, rises to power very quickly, and then falls from power very quickly. One of my favourite genres to do is action comedy, just because you can have so much fun with it. It's not necessarily the sort of films that I watch most often, but they're some of the most fun to create, I think, just because they're always very high energy and everyone's usually having a bit of a laugh with it on set. So a lot of the old films that I used to do before university as well often revolved around a mix between action and comedy. So it was very much me doing my thing that I love to do. So that's what I mean by make films for you. I might have said that in some of my previous videos, is make films that you enjoy making, because if you're having a good time and you're putting that energy, like positive energy, into the production, then you have to hope that the audience will kind of feel that and have a good time with it too. So yeah, thank you very much for watching yet another breakdown. I hope these aren't getting too boring. I'm going to do a couple more revolving around some of the videos that we have, some of the short films that we have on the channel, and then yeah, start suggesting some other videos that I can look at too and see if I can break down some more stuff. So yes, thank you as always very much for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one.